By 2028, genetic diversity of cultivated plants and farmed and domesticated animals and wild relatives is conserved or maintained. Genetic diversity of cultivated plants and farmed and domesticated animals and wild relatives. By 2028, maintained population of migratory birds in selected inland wetlands along the East Asian Australasian Flyway (EAAF). Population of migratory birds recorded and analyzed during population counts in key inland wetland sites in the Philippines along the EAAF. By 2028, ecosystem services provided by key biodiversity areas are enhanced. Amount of estimated carbon stocks in forest areas in the Philippines, number of irrigation systems and water systems for domestic use that are sourced from KBAs, and volume and quality of water from these sources. Number of sites in key biodiversity areas that serve as ecotourism destinations. Number of IP communities with identified sacred places and or ICCAs within KBAs. By 2028, fish stocks of economically important species maintained. Abundance and biomass of fish species recorded in national stock assessments and other local stocks assessment initiatives. By 2028, 10 number of people that benefit from biodiversity conservation related enterprises. We foresee more people benefiting from biodiversity conservation related enterprises and livelihoods. The cumulative improvements on our biodiversity throughout the planning period will likely result into the cumulative achievement of this target. However, as early as now, we need to establish this baseline. Number of biodiversity conservation related jobs, ecotourism, sustainable agriculture, etc. generated annually. Progress on these targets will be monitored regularly through a set of indicators to enable us to measure our gains in terms of biodiversity conservation. This slide presents the costing the PBSAP. The succeeding table shows the estimated cost of implementing direct and enabling interventions according to the thematic area, ABS, IAS, urban biodiversity, and agro-biodiversity, and ecosystem, forest or terrestrial, inland wetlands, caves and cave system, and coastal and marine. Here it is, let's watch. The total estimated cost of implementing the PBSAP from 2015 to 2028 ranges from $6.2 billion to $7.3 billion. 65% or $4.1 billion of the total cost was computed to prevent habitat loss and overexploitation of forest or terrestrial biodiversity. It is followed by inland wetlands with a total of $1.4 billion to address habitat loss, overexploitation, population, and climate change. This slide shows us the summary of cost for all interventions according to categories. Protection strategies account for 50% of the total estimated cost at $3.1 billion, while 42% is attributed to restorations at $2.6 billion. While this budget includes direct actions towards attempting to restore ecosystem services and functions, it does not include the value of lost ecosystem services, which will even inflate the cost even more. This also denotes the goal of the country for both protection and restoration go hand in hand in its futile attempt in reverting to the pre-exploitation levels and at the same time protect the biodiversity from various factors affecting its decline. The slides reveals to us the annual expenditure requirements for PBSAP implementation 2015 to 2028. Let's watch this. The preceding slides show us an average of 20 billion pesos or 447 million US dollars is required on a yearly basis from 2015 to 2028 using the low scenario. The forestry sector consistently requires the largest budget, followed by the inland wetland sectors. A huge increase in funding required for the inland wetland sector amounting to 30 billion pesos is projected in 2016 due to the investments in technologies to promote sanitation in inland wetlands. PBSAP targets a resettlement program directed towards migrants in PAs, which is expected for completion in 2020. A total of 10 billion pesos is required on annual basis from 2015 to 2020, thus the drop in funding requirements for the forestry sector from 2021 onwards. This slide shows the summary of one-time cost for implementing PBSAP. Let's watch this. An estimated total of 373 million US dollars in one-time cost is expected from 2015 to 2019, most of which is expected to come about by 2016. The table shows that 96% of these costs are contributed by activities for inland wetlands. The bulk of the cost was attributed mainly to the construction of structures such as waste management facility, wetlands information center, constructed wetlands, and rehabilitation of waterways. One-time costs for forest and agrobiodiversity sectors are also earmarked for building structures such as mechanized nurseries and laboratories. Other one-time costs include payments for consultants such as aquaculture specialists and mangrove specialists for coastal and marine, ABS specialists and M&E specialists for ABS that will be commissioned to undertake specific tasks in the initial years of conservation activities. This slide shows us the summary of the recurring costs classified as short-term, medium-term, and long-term. Let's watch this. The preceding table shows the summary of recurring costs classified in short, medium, and long-term with a total amount of 5.9 million US dollars. Around 50% of the total estimated cost is expected to occur from 2021 to 2028.